Alright, YouTube, we're back. We're talking some... Actually, give me a second. There we go. It's a hell of a lot better, but meaning to switch the backdrop up just a little bit. Probably not done tweaking it. Anyway, let's hop into the video. Alright, YouTube, we're back. We're talking some Final Fantasy IX. We have another kind of update, if you want to call it that, in regards to the remake this time, and a potential name. What's very interesting about this is it goes back a couple of months, and the title that this person has for the remake of Final Fantasy IX matches the album we just had revealed yesterday. So there's a post in Gaming Leaks and Rumors on Reddit, kind of quoting Jason Schreier from Blue Sky, just talking about them kind of randomly dropping a teaser for the Switch 2 a couple months before the actual official reveal, which is the direct we're waiting on, I believe. And then in the replies was somebody who just throws out like a fucking title for the 9 remake. So this person just says, I can't tell you how I know or where I see it, but there's a listing for Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale Remake at my work. It's the first I've seen of that subtitle. And again, that was 2 months ago. And if we actually based the Reddit post off of when the Jason Schreier post went out on Blue Sky, it was actually like 2.5 months ago. This person was throwing out Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale. And again, we had this revealed like yesterday or so that there's a vinyl coming out called Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale. This would be a hell of a thing to guess if they were just throwing shit out there, right? They're just lying, making shit up, and they just happen to get that right. The odds of that are fucking low. Because when it comes to like the remake games, for example, like people have guessed pretty much every RE word out there when it comes to subtitles for the trilogy, so somebody's going to be right. But they also base, the second game's title off of the soundtrack, right? When it comes to remake, there's the One Wing Angel Rebirth song, right? So a lot of people were leaning towards that being maybe the subtitle name for the second game. Which was technically true. Initially, though, Rebirth was going to be the subtitle for the third game, and Reunion was going to be the subtitle for the second game, but things got switched around, but that theory ended up being true. So somebody was just making shit up for like a subtitle name for a Final Fantasy IX remake and just threw out Timeless Tale, and there just happened to be a vinyl coming out a couple months later called Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale. Like, the odds of that are so goddamn low. When I initially read this, I was just kind of writing it off as maybe they seen like the vinyl early or something like that, right? Like 2.5 months ago, wherever they work at or whatever the fuck. They just happened to see that in their database or some shit. But if you go back to their comment, they do say, quote, Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale Remake in parentheses, end quote. So it seems like the word remake is involved in the title of whatever it is that they're reading. If their comment just said Final Fantasy IX Timeless Tale, it would still be kind of interesting, and we might make a video about that potentially, but I would probably just chalk it up to them seeing that vinyl early, right? And not necessarily thinking that that's like a subtitle for the remake or something. And actually, if you check out the replies to their comment from a few months ago, they have a history of getting things right. This person says, cool thing to share. I won't inquire into your private business further, but I will leave a comment for later in case this listing verbiage is accurate. And they reply with, I hope it is. I'm not directly involved. I can just see it. I did get the Like a Dragon Yakuza Pirate in Hawaii title right before it was officially announced, so I have some faith in my source. And no, I didn't see anything for Final Fantasy Tactics Remake. They apparently have some history of getting like game titles correct through their job, I suppose. And we got a little bit of a Tactics, I guess, remake update. I think the leak that happened with NVIDIA was actually a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, but people kind of flip-flop between calling it a remake and remaster. But apparently, at least where his like source is, he's not seen anything for Tactics. She dove into the Reddit account to look for that Pirate Yakuza thing and actually came across a pretty interesting comment they left within the last handful of hours. So they commented on a Reddit post saying, I don't really want to get myself fired, but internet credit is more important. My company deals with, let's say, PC compatibility testing. That's where I saw it along with plenty of other games. It makes zero sense for it to be the vinyl in this case. That all said, there are a lot of codenames, etc. in the database, and it could be subject to change or just a way to differentiate it from the OG version. And I keep checking for a Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster to pop up, and nothing. We get a bit of an update on kind of what their job is, right? PC compatibility testing, which does make some sense why they might see something in regards to the 9 Remake, because that's how we learned about it in the first place, was a big leak on some PC-related shit with NVIDIA, right? Unfortunately, with this recent comment, a few months after the previous comment we looked at, there's still no update on the Tactics Remaster, they call it this time. Does the subtitle Timeless Tale make sense for a Final Fantasy IX remake? I think it does. Square Enix has a pretty decent history of doing this with like remakes or remasters, right? Not all the time. Sometimes they just call the game whatever remake, whatever remaster, right? But I think in more recent times we've seen this with obviously Crisis Core Union. In more recent times we've seen this with the remake of Romancing Saga 2, which was Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, right? They didn't just want to call it Romancing Saga 2 Remake. I think it makes perfect sense to give the remake of Final Fantasy IX a subtitle name, right? And I think Timeless Tale fits for one with the medieval setting, so like the word tale kind of works, right? But also, like, the Timeless Tale thing, I think it makes sense, too, for Final Fantasy IX, considering that it's the highest-rated Final Fantasy of all time. So it is clearly a Timeless Tale. And that's really kind of it right now for the video. We just have a potential title for the 9 Remake, right? Final Fantasy IX, a Timeless Tale. I think it's decent odds that that's the case, because we have a history of Square Enix giving, sub-names, subtitles to the remakes, remasters, and things like that. Not all the time, but they do it pretty often. And then also the fact that this person commented this shit months ago, and then a few months later we have the fucking vinyl revealed, which matches what his comment was 2.5 months ago. It's kind of insane. It's kind of the equivalent of somebody, you know, posting on Reddit saying that they have a title for the 3rd remake game, and it's like Final Fantasy VII Cloud's Revenge or Cloud's Truth or some random ass shit, and that ends up being true later on down the line, right? It's kind of the equivalent of that. Like a multi-word subtitle for a remake of a game is just an insane thing to guess. It's according to them, based on their profession, they don't think it's about the vinyl, considering they're in PC compatibility testing. And we do, of course, got to mention it. The Switch 2 Direct is coming up very, very soon, and we're hopeful that the 9 Remake will be there. But even if it's not, even if Square Enix isn't there at all, I don't think that necessarily disproves the 9 Remake's existence, right? Because it could be shown at a different event, maybe sometime closer to the actual anniversary for FF9. But we are hopeful for the Direct. But that, of course, is where I pass off to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is going to be the name for the 9 Remake? Do you think there's even going to be a subname? Would it just be Final Fantasy 9 Remake, or do you think Timeless Tale is accurate? Do you think it makes sense? What are the odds of somebody making that up or guessing that? Anyways, that is the video. Subscribe to if you guys are new. System works in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @DaveYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.